Hey guys, welcome back to another week's episode of The Future from Last Week, where I go over some of the larger futurology and general news that will have a meaningful impact on the future from my perspective. Also, please let me know if the name for the series is actually dumb because it sounds good in my head, but I also laugh at name jokes like this, so who knows. Anyway, getting into this week's episode, we are starting off with, did the Pentagon just send us proof of aliens? Do we finally have irrefutable evidence that we are not alone and that the invasion has begun? Well, no. But the Pentagon did release a set of video clips from around 2004 showing UFOs as seen by pilots, which is what you're watching right now. Now, in movies, UFOs generally mean aliens or flying saucers, but don't worry, because the Men in Black are not coming for you just yet.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you will, look right here.
Because in reality, UFO just means we have no idea what the hell this is. It could be a bird, a plane, or possibly some startup company testing drone equipment, because drones are being used more and more for surveying and aerial work, so companies are working on their range and maneuverability all of the time. These videos are not actually completely new as well, because they were previously released in 2017 by To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, and people largely believed them to be a hoax or some sort of cover-up. And the Department of Defense just wanted to go on the record stating that the video is actually real and re-released it themselves. However, their official stance is that it's more likely a drone or some sort of aircraft from another country, which obviously brings about some national security issues. But the Pentagon stance on aliens, based on a program that they ran in the last decade, is that there's very compelling evidence that we are not alone. So there's not much more to it than that. We don't know what it is, and while it doesn't confirm ET, I'm wondering, what do you guys think? Is the government secretly hiding aliens in Area 51? Or do you not even believe that there's other life out there in the first place? Moving on. For the second week in a row, we do have some space news to look forward to. Last week, NASA announced that SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Dynetics were selected to receive funding of around $1 billion split among the three of them to build human landing systems to support future crewed moon landings by 2024 as part of the White House's Moon to Mars campaign. So in this, SpaceX and Blue Origin are the most well known because SpaceX was founded by resident billionaire playboy junior stock influencer Elon Musk, and Blue Origin is owned by Jeff Bezos, founder and CEO of Amazon, and also jacked ball guy. Dynetics, on the other hand, flies way more under the radar, as they exist primarily to service the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, and NASA with things such as providing intelligence, missiles, unmanned air systems, and more as part of their offering. So they probably don't aim to be in the media as much, because they try to operate more covertly. However, things are not over just yet, as these three companies will still have to develop their designs over a 10-month period and go through another selection round where either one or two of the designs are used. A NASA administrator mentioned that this is the last step that's needed in order to be ready for the moon, so it's likely that after the designs are completed in 2021, the next 3 years will be for the creation, adaptation of the design, and the final setup for the mission. One thing to note is that Boeing did not get selected, and before Blue Origin and SpaceX came around, Boeing had a strong relationship with NASA and would frequently be the go-to company for satellite launches. This, along with the hit to their commercial airline division due to COVID-19 and Berkshire Hathaway founder Warren Buffett dumping their stock, is bound to hurt them quite a bit. Now, there's a lot to digest regarding this program specifically, and more of the specifics of what's going on. So I think I'll make a separate video going in detail about the specific program and campaign, but this is currently at what stage the campaign is in. Up next is another piece of coronavirus news, and if I could, I would prefer not to include these, but they genuinely do have an effect on how things will change going forward. So I do have to cover them in some aspect, even though they're probably being reported to death by every news outlet out there. So in this COVID-19 update, we have just two pieces of information. First is that there's some evidence that people are not actually being reinfected with the virus. So about a month ago, in countries such as China and South Korea, where they have seen diminishing margins on the infection rate, there was a bit of a scare that people who had thought to have been treated became reinfected with the virus. But there are new reports coming from an infectious disease expert from South Korea saying that these tests were actually flawed because the tests weren't able to tell the difference between virus remains after being treated and an active virus, which could be attributed to how rushed some of these tests were given the pandemic. But overall, this is good news, because if this is the case, it means that if you did have it and were treated and were successful, you might not be cured, but you would likely have immunity until the vaccine comes out later in the year or early next year. And speaking about the vaccine, a group at Oxford University mentioned that if things do go according to plan, vaccines could be out as early as September of this year. This is due to what I mentioned in last week's video, where the testing was found to be effective on rhesus macaque monkeys, and it's believed that human trials will go according to plan. All of this will depend also on each country's regulator approval, as most of the researching and testing is being performed privately, and there's some contention on how long the health and drug regulators are going to take to fully test out the product before saying it's safe for the general public. I personally can't wait to get back to normal, but I do believe that we still haven't seen all that there is to see about the virus and the consequences of it. And ending on a much lighter note, pun intended, glowing plants are back in the news, with some folks over at Planta, a Moscow-based biotech company, announcing that they have broken through the previous plateau with glowing plants and are now close to it being available for purchase to the general public. In 2017, engineers over at MIT found a way to make plants glow by taking the enzymes that give fireflies their glow, luciferase, and integrating it into the plant structure using nanoparticles, with the particles gradually releasing the enzyme when it enters the plant cells and could last for 4 or so hours. What's different now is that instead of using luciferase, Planta extracted DNA from bioluminescent mushrooms and have inserted it into tobacco plants as a test, and it was found to continuously emit visible green light from the stems, roots, leaves, and flowers throughout all phases of their growth, while also being 10 times brighter than the previous method and also being permanently glowing. Immediately when I heard this, I think of the fluorescent forest of Pandora from Avatar. And while this may not seem like it has an obvious impact on our future, if you think about the potential for plants and trees to replace lights, you start to get a bit more creative. Imagine streets being naturally illuminated by trees planted throughout a walkway, or even keeping some plants indoors to act as night lights or reading lights. The obvious benefit is that we're planting more green on Earth, which should help with CO2 emissions, improving the quality of the air we breathe, as well as reducing some of the light pollution and energy costs. But what do you guys think? Would you like to light up your house with plants rather than actual light bulbs? Or do you think that the extra maintenance of having to deal with those plants just doesn't make it worth it? And that's it for that video. I'm still trying to figure out a good format, and I know this current format feels a bit choppy and it's not the smoothest transitions, but if you did enjoy the video, please subscribe and like. If you have any ideas of what could make the format better, drop it in the comments below. And if you've made it this far into the video, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.